Night had fallen over JFK Airport, New York. The runways glowed under a sea of yellow lights, the air vibrating with the thunder of engines, the crackle of radios, and the murmur of thousands of passengers waiting to depart. But through that noise, one calm, steady voice cut through like a blade. Captain Emily Dawson, Flight 372, ready for takeoff. Emily, 27 years old, young, confident, and calm in a way only a few pilots ever learn to be. Her eyes carried the quiet strength of someone who had seen storms before and walked out of them. She wasn't just a pilot. She was a mystery wrapped in a uniform, a secret that only a few officers in the U.S. Air Force still remembered. Inside the cabin, passengers were settling in. A little girl clutched her mother's hand. An old couple whispered softly to their grandson, and a soldier sat by the window staring at the clouds beyond. None of them knew that in just a few hours this flight would change their lives forever. Emily's hand rested on the throttle as she called out, "TBUR, Delta 372 ready for takeoff. Runway 22 left." Clearance came through. Engines roared to life. Within seconds, the aircraft sped down the runway and lifted into the night sky, disappearing into the dark, endless blue. 2 hours later, the flight was smooth. The sky clear, the air calm, and everything normal. But hidden beneath that calm, danger was waiting. Her co-pilot, Mark, leaned forward, his eyes narrowing at the instruments. "Captain, I'm seeing a drop in pressure on the right engine. Looks unusual." Emily glanced, calm as ever. "Let's double-check it. Probably just a sensor glitch," but then it happened. A sound that ripped through the night. Boom! The right engine exploded, flames bursting from the wing, the plane shaking violently as screams filled the cabin. Emily didn't flinch. She grabbed the mic, her voice firm, steady, unshaken. "Mayday! Mayday! Delta 372 experiencing engine failure. Requesting emergency landing." Her hands moved with precision, adjusting the controls, stabilizing the aircraft, countering the yaw. Mark's breathing was heavy, but she stayed rock solid. The cabin lights flickered. Smoke began to seep from the rear section. The passengers panicked, but Emily's voice came through the speaker, calm yet commanding. "This is your captain speaking. We're experiencing a technical issue, but we are under control. Please remain seated and trust my crew. We'll get through this." Below them stretched the vast, cold Atlantic Ocean. The nearest landing site was the Canadian Air Base Norfield, but reports from control said a violent storm was rolling in. Emily stared ahead, the storm flashing like white fire on the horizon. She whispered under her breath, not to anyone but to herself. "We're not losing anyone today." "Not on my watch." Then came another blast. The rear of the plane caught fire. Cabin crew ran to extinguish it. Passengers screamed and oxygen masks fell from the ceiling. Emily unstrapped herself, something pilots rarely do mid-emergency, and stepped into the cabin. Smoke. Heat. Fear everywhere. She grabbed an extinguisher and joined the crew, fighting the flames herself. Her uniform burned at the edges, but she didn't stop. "Hold on.
We're almost there."
"Stay calm, keep your seatbelts fastened." When the fire dimmed, she returned to the cockpit, her hands blistered and shaking. But she didn't care. She took back control, eyes locked on the storm ahead. A crackle came over the radio. "Delta 372, this is Air Defense Command. Identify yourself," Emily replied, her voice low and controlled. "Delta 372, civilian flight en route to Newfoundland, requesting emergency landing." Then, without thinking, she said something that froze every ear listening on the other side. "This is call sign Valkyrie 12. Silence. Not a sound came through the headset. Then, a whisper. A man's voice, quiet, almost stunned. "Valkyrie 12, stand by." Thousands of feet above, at NORAD command, 2 F-22 pilots had just received the alert. Their screens flashed the same call sign. They looked at each other, eyes wide, disbelief written on their faces. Captain Alan Graves muttered, That can't be right. She's supposed to be dead." Because Valkyrie 12 wasn't an ordinary call sign. It belonged to one of the most decorated and most secret U.S. Air Force pilots in modern history. A woman who had saved 12 pilots in an enemy strike years ago and vanished after a classified mission went wrong. Her name, Captain Emily Dawson. Now, she was back, not in a fighter jet, not on a mission, but as a commercial pilot, fighting to save 183 lives above a raging storm, while the ghosts of her past were waking up again. The two F-22 Raptors sliced through the night sky like silver arrows, their afterburners lighting the clouds in flashes of blue fire. Inside the lead jet, Captain Alan Graves kept his eyes locked on the radar. The blinking signal ahead, Flight 372, wasn't just another civilian plane, it was her. His voice trembled as he radioed command. Confirm call sign. Valkyrie 12 is active on civilian frequency. Repeat, active. Silence. Then the reply came, cold and clipped. Maintain shadow position. Do not engage. She's not to be interfered with. But Graves couldn't shake the memories. He'd flown beside her once, over the Syrian desert. Years ago, she'd saved him when his jet went down, dragging him from the wreckage as enemy fire rained from the sky. She was fearless then, almost inhuman in her calm. And now the same woman was flying a crippled passenger plane into a storm that could kill everyone aboard. Lightning burst across the horizon. Inside Flight 372, alarms screamed, systems failed one by one. Mark shouted over the chaos, "We're losing hydraulic pressure. Controls aren't responding." Emily's eyes flicked across the instruments, every warning light glowing red. She bit her lip, sweat running down her temples. "All right, manual override. We're flying this bird the old way." The plane jolted, dipping violently. Passengers cried out, oxygen masks swinging like pendulums. Through the cockpit window, the storm looked alive, twisting, roaring, daring her to come closer. Altitude 3,000. "Dropping fast," Mark yelled. Emily's voice remained steady. "Keep her level. Trim 2 degrees left." She knew every vibration, every sound. The jet was bleeding power, but still had one heart beating, the left engine, and she intended to use it till the last breath. Below them, the F-22s hovered at a distance, invisible to the passengers but not to her. Through the storm flashes, she caught a glimpse on 2 specks of light tailing her. She smiled faintly. "So they sent the boys to watch the show?" Alan's voice crackled in her headset. "Valkyrie 12, this is Raptor 1, is that really you?" For the first time, her voice softened. "Hello, Alan, long time." He hesitated. "What the hell are you doing out here? We thought you were gone?" She finished his sentence. "Yeah, that's what I wanted them to think." A deep rumble shook the aircraft. The right wing had taken lightning. System shorted. Fuel pressure plummeted. Mark shouted, "We're on fire!" Right tanks breached. Emily's hand moved like lightning itself, switching valves, sealing off fuel lines, isolating the fire. Her voice came firm again. "Don't look at the flames. Look at the horizon." Outside, the storm was swallowing the sky whole. Wind speeds tore at the plane like claws. Alan's voice came again, desperate. "Emily, pull up. You're heading straight into the center cell. It'll tear you apart." "I can't turn back," she said quietly. "There's no other route that keeps us above water. If I lose lift, we ditch. I'm not letting 183 souls drown out here." Alan's voice broke. "You can't save everyone." "Not again." Her reply came like steel. "Watch me." The F-22s surged closer, one on each flank, their lights flickering through the storm clouds. Alan's heart pounded. Every instinct screamed to protect her. But this was her battle, and he knew she'd never forgive him if he took it away. Inside the cabin, chaos reigned. A baby cried. A woman prayed. A man tried to open the overhead bin, searching for something. Anything. Emily's voice echoed through the speakers once more. Calm, powerful, unbreakable. "This is your captain speaking. I need everyone to stay calm and trust me. We've got a tough ride ahead, but we're going home. Together." She disconnected the intercom and took a deep breath. Mark whispered, "You were in the Air Force, weren't you?" She gave a small nod. "Once. A lifetime ago." He stared at her, eyes wide with realization. Valkyrie 12. She looked straight ahead, eyes fixed on the lightning splitting the clouds. That name died years ago. Then came the worst of it. Wind shear. The plane dropped 2,000 feet in seconds. Drinks, bags, and screams filled the air. Mark fought the controls with both hands, but Emily's voice cut through. "Hold her steady. Flaps 15. Metal groaned. The jet felt like it was being ripped apart. But somehow she kept it from rolling. Below them, radar operators watched in disbelief as Flight 372 vanished into the storm's core. "Command, We've lost visual contact, Alan radioed. Voice cracking, static answered. Inside the eye of the storm, everything went silent, utterly silent. Lightning flashed around them like the veins of a living beast. Emily's hands were trembling now, her strength fading. Mark looked at her, terrified. We're not going to make it. Yes, we are, she said. Because I promised them. Her voice dropped to a whisper. And I don't break promises. The storm was tearing itself apart. The sky roared like a living thing, swallowing every sound, every cry, every heartbeat. Flight 372 was trapped in its center, broken, battered yet somehow still flying. Inside the cockpit, alarm screamed hydraulic pressure, 0 fuel critical, altitude 9,000 feet and dropping fast. Emily gripped the yoke with trembling hands. The lights flickered red, rain hammering against the windshield like bullets. Her co-pilot Mark shouted, We're losing her. We've got less than 5 minutes before impact. Emily didn't look at him. Her eyes were locked on the faint lights flickering below, the distant glow of the Canadian coastline. 5 minutes. That was all she needed. She opened the intercom. Her voice was quiet now, steady like the eye of a hurricane. This is your captain speaking. I need everyone to listen very carefully. We're going to experience a very hard landing. Tighten your seatbelts, stay low. Trust me. A child started crying somewhere in the back. A man prayed. Emily closed her eyes for a heartbeat, remembering the first time she ever flew. The calm, endless sky and her father's words. A real pilot never flies the plane. She flies the people inside it. The engine sputtered. Coughing their final breath, she pushed forward, forcing every last ounce of thrust from the one engine still alive. Outside, lightning painted her face, half human, half legend. Emily, Mark whispered. If we don't pull up in 30 seconds, we'll... I know, she said softly. Just hold on. At 4,000 feet, both F-22s reappeared beside her, their silver wings slicing through rain and wind. Alan's voice came through the static, breaking with emotion. Emily, you're too low. You'll never make the coast. Her voice came calm, almost peaceful. If I pull up now, we stall. If I don't, we hit the water. Either way, I need you to light the path. Alan's hands tightened around his controls. What are you doing? Saving them, she whispered. She cut off the transmission. The F-22s soared ahead, switching on their landing lights, piercing through the darkness, 2 angels guiding her way. Emily followed their glow, the plane shuddering violently, wings bending, metal screaming. Mark shouted, We're out of power! Controls are gone. Emily grabbed the manual lever. Then we do it by hand. She fought the yoke with everything she had left. The storm slammed against them. The sea rose up to meet them like a black wall, 1,000 feet. $1,000. Alan's voice echoed through the storm. Pull up, Emily. Pull up now. Her voice came like a whisper across the radio. Calm, certain, final. Tell them. Valkyrie kept her promise. And then impact, a roar of wind, metal, and thunder. The plane hit the water hard, skidding across the surface like a skipping stone before breaking apart. Waves swallowed it whole. Silence followed. Minutes later, the F-22s circled low. The wreckage burned across the sea, pieces glowing in the dark. Alan's heart sank until he saw it. Life rafts. Yellow dots scattered across the waves, people waving, crying, alive. He exhaled, half in disbelief, half in grief. She'd done it. She'd saved them, all 183 souls. Rescue helicopters arrived within the hour. Survivors were pulled from the freezing water, dazed and trembling. Mark was among them, his hands shaking, his voice broken. She stayed at the controls. She wouldn't leave. She said someone had to keep her steady till the end. Alan landed his jet hours later. He walked across the rain-soaked runway. Drenched, exhausted, and hollow, reporters swarmed the survivors, calling it a miracle on the sea. But to him, it wasn't a miracle, it was Emily. Days passed, they never found her body and only a piece of her flight jacket. Torn but intact, floating near the wreck. On it, the old patch from her Air Force days. Valkyrie 12. At her memorial, Alan spoke quietly to the crowd. She wasn't just a pilot. She was the reason I'm alive. She saved us once in war, and again in peace. Some heroes wear medals, She wore wings. He looked up at the sky, calm, clear, endless again, somewhere up there. He liked to believe she was still flying, watching over them all, because legends don't die. They just take off one last time and never land.